Being here in Memphis, Tennessee, there is no way you can leave this city without visiting Motel Lorraine, where Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on 4th of April, 1968.
He was shot and killed on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel.
An event that sent shockwaves reverberating around the world. A Baptist minister and founder of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King had led the civil rights movement since mid-50s. Using a combination of impassioned speeches and non-violent protests to fight segregation and achieve significant civil rights for African American people. Martin Luther King Jr., hugely inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's freedom movement in India, which was fought with the tools of non-violence, of non-cooperation, the tools of non-violent movement, the outpouring of anger and anguish and angst among the black Americans, as well as a period of national mourning that helped speed the way for an equal housing bill that would be the last significant legislative achievement of the civil rights era. The significance of Dr. King cannot be overstated because today America stands as a proud democracy among the Committee of Nations only because of the civil rights movement. Without equal rights for all human beings living in this country, this nation would not have been able to rise itself to a leadership position in the world. Civil rights movement, a key development in the evolution of the nation towards becoming a world leader. Dr. King, Martin Luther King, of the many things that he was, the most important thing is his commitment to the people. And when he saw that many black Americans were getting impatient and angry with him because they wanted to take to more confrontational mode of protests, like violent protests or armed conflict. But the wisdom behind Dr. King's non-violence is very important, as it was with Mahatma Gandhi. It is not that Mahatma Gandhi would not have chosen some other form of doing or some other form of conducting the freedom movement if he saw that possibility. He knew the forces of oppression held such power in terms of armament, how they were armed and how they were organized, that if you went for armed conflict, there would be a slaughter and innocent people would die. And once you stand up with a gun, the other person gets all the rights to commit atrocities upon you because now you're carrying a gun. So, it was profound wisdom within Mahatma Gandhi's understanding of politics, the Indian people, the culture, where it is not a militant culture, very docile culture. He saw that non-violence could become a tremendous weapon in the armory of freedom struggle. So, that further enhanced the value of non-violent mode of fighting for India's freedom, and that was replicated here in America by Dr. King and replicated by Nelson Mandela in South Africa. In all these places, the oppression that was happening to a certain people was overcome without really firing bullets at your opponents or your oppressors, but by the dignity of non-violence. It takes much more courage to be non-violent, looking at the barrel of the gun or a bayonet or a baton that could crack your skull and still remain non-violent. It needs lot more courage, lot more commitment, lot more strength of heart for a human being to stay non-violent when there is widespread oppression around you. And the oppression is not of one day, it has continued for generations. So, we have to bow to these human beings who inspired thousands of people around them to stand up in a non-violent mode to a violent oppression. Not going by an eye for an eye business. As Mahatma Gandhi said once, if we go by the principle of an eye for an eye, we will have a whole world full of blind people. So, this movement in America in the 60s, led by Dr. King largely and many other leaders, in a way did not come to an end in Memphis. They managed to take his life, but it did not end in Memphis. It continued on to bring equality, to bring some sense of justice to the people who had suffered a couple of centuries of slavery and injustice. Well, unfortunately, the fight still continues to some extent. In recent times, there has been Black Lives Matters movement, which is in a way a small ripple from the 1960s civil rights movement. It's unfortunate still some people have to fight for equal nomination in a society, though by constitution and by law all citizens are equal, still socially, culturally, that has not happened. Still, even in systemic expression of law, that is not happened, so still people are fighting for it. These fights should not continue for long. I am not saying people should not fight for their rights, I am saying people's rights should not be taken away and there should be no need for fighting for your rights. Rights have been given to us by our constitutions. It is not necessary for us to fight on the streets. For this, a society needs to evolve out of one's prejudice of race, religion, caste, creed. Time has come. In honor of these great human beings, particularly these three that I mentioned, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who took to non-violent modes and set a new phenomena on the planet that you can fight oppression without you responding with the same coin, not of revenge, not of vengeance, but of peacefulness. Well, they even spoke about love for those who've been oppressing you. This is a new phenomenon. This is the way forward for all democratic societies, that in case in our societies it so happens there is oppression, certain class of people, based on whatever discriminations that we have invented in our minds, if it happens, there is a way to fight without fighting, to fight without spilling blood on the street, to fight without taking other people's lives. There is a way to fight in a democratic society.